So we are continuing with explaining the continental polar air mass or polar continental air mass. In our last statement, we ended up talking about how it affects the US, where we say that the continental polar or Arctic air masses most often affect the eastern two-thirds of the country, however, with diminishing intensity further south. So polar continental air mass originate on land from polar areas, usually dry. For example, Canada, Scandinavia, that is Northern Europe. So polar continental air mass is associated with low temperatures and bitterly cold winds in winter, and wind chill can be significant. If they pick moisture in their path, they produce freezing rainfall, snow, or even hail. So continental polar air mass are cold, dry, and stable. They are cold and dry, originating from high latitude, typically as air flowing out of the polar highs. So this air mass is often brings the rattling cold, dry, and clear weather on a perfect winter day, and also dry and warm weather on a pleasant day in summer. So the weather characteristics of this air mass depend on the length of the sea track during its passage from Europe to the British Isles. So this air mass is inherently very cold and dry, and it reaches southern Britain with short sea track over the clear skies and severe frost. So with a longer sea track over the North Sea, the air brings unstable and moisture is added, giving rise to showers of rain or snow, especially near the east coast Britain. So these are the characteristics of the continental polar air mass and how it affects the northern Europe, or which is Northern Europe, Scandinavia, Canada, and British Isles. So it is originating from the polar, right? So it brings in cold, dry, and stable air masses, which typically flows out of the polar highs. Now let's move on to the continental tropical air mass. Continental tropical air mass. So this type of air mass can be best described as having dry and hot or warm conditions. The reason for this is because it forms over land and is also found in hot tropical regions. The best place in the United States to find this type of air mass is the southwest portion of the United States. This type of air mass is associated with very dry conditions that can prevail for long periods of time. It is also tropical in nature. Temperature can rise well into the hundreds. Now, this type of air mass is most pronounced during the summer month as it's a warm air mass. So in the winter, this air mass is slowly removed and replaced by colder air. This air mass is strong enough that it can extend northward into the parts of Colorado in the summer and also expand eastward into portions of Texas and Oklahoma. So these originate from the tropics. They originate on land from the tropics. They are warm and dry, that is little or no moisture. Originate mainly from arid regions, for example, the Sahara regions. They may bring the hottest and driest conditions in their way. So this is the continental tropical air mass where they are originating from. So we have the continental tropical air masses, which include the maritime, which have the dry or warm conditions, and if they originate mainly from arid regions, for example, the Sahara region, they bring between the hottest and driest conditions. So now let's look into the maritime polar. So the maritime polar air mass is typically formed over bodies of water north and south of 60 degrees latitude, both in the northern and the southern hemisphere. Maritime polar air masses which produce cool, damp conditions. So considerable cloudiness, including fog, often accompanies maritime polar air masses. Precipitation is also common. Now, depending on the time of the year, precipitation may come in the form of rain or snow and can be substantial. In the US, maritime polar air masses are usually confined to the Pacific Northwest, although they occasionally affect New England. This air mass is characterized by frequent showers and at any time of the year. In the winter months, when instability, that is convection, is most vigorous over the sea, hail and thunder are common across much of the western and northern side of the British Isles. However, eastern Britain may see fewer showers as the surface heating is reduced. During the summer, the reverse is true. Land pressures are high than sea pressures, and the heaviest showers occur over eastern England. Then the originating from polar regions, for example, Canada, Greenland, and Antarctica. The air mass is cold but carry large amounts of moisture. If these air masses move over warm waters, they become unstable, which can produce torrential rainfall. So now we are going to move on to the maritime tropical. So we discussed about the maritime polar, which is typically formed over bodies of water north and south of 60 degrees latitude, both in the northern and southern hemisphere, and they originate from polar regions, for example, Canada, Greenland, and Antarctica. So follow us on Facebook, Survey Scholars Academy. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Survey Scholars Academy, and share with your colleagues as you're preparing for your exams and for your online tutorials. You can contact me on +263 782 108484. Thank you.